These are some of the features of the setup of this trike. The front wheel is in this third axle position in the back. It should be there. This chain guard, which is the tube that runs all the way up there, is attached to a metal plate that is spaced off of the cassette by one washer. That must be there, otherwise it rubs. The chain is on the cog of the cassette that's second from the top. The headset is as shown. It's got a lock nut as a bicycle. It's positioned. The centering spring is hooked here, and there's a bolt that has a spacer and then a nut that tightens or loosens it. This is kind of sort of the neutral position for centering. This is mediumly centered. You can also increase it by screwing in this nut here, and you can decrease it by screwing it out, removing this washer, the spacer, and then it has more room. Centering spring stretches as you go around a corner. It stops you about 90 degrees. The chain is tensioned by sliding this bottom bracket unit up and down along this tube. There are 5/16 bolts that use 1/2 inch or 13mm wrenches. The chain guard is attached to this support, which also holds the chain guard tube. And the chain guard is just to keep you from falling into the chain. It should be not touching anywhere along here. It's just used as a bit of a washer in line there with the bolt. On this end it just sort of rests, and it's under some sprung, so it just sort of sticks against that tube. The rack is, removable. It's attached here, and then a couple supports. It's not meant for a person. You can put stuff there. Keep the stuff from falling into the chain. This cutout allows the chain to move all the way through it to its range of motion. These are the thumb screws to slide the seat forward and backwards. You just loosen them, and then the seat slides. These buckles adjust the backrest angle. On each side they should be about equal. This is the brake. It slides along this clamp, along this tube. There's a rotational stop that keeps the brake from falling too far forward, so you can still reach it. It looks about at that angle. That stop should be set so that if your finger gets caught in there accidentally, it doesn't get stuck. The brake needs to move with the axle. The axle on this prototype has 4 positions that they can move through. Farther forward gives you more weight on the rear wheel and better pushroom access in a seat position that's also farther forward. Farther backward lets you have your seat a little far forward from it, and it helps weight the front wheel a little bit by allowing you to have your seat forward, but it's harder to reach the pushrooms. This whole frame disassembles with bolts. There's 2 on each side, and these are just 12mm bolts that get tightened down to keep the frame stiff. Those are the major features of the Trike. When you adjust these brakes, make sure that they hit the tires at approximately the same time. Each of these clamps moves independently. You can adjust the angle slightly. The reason for that is that you want them to brake evenly, otherwise it's going to turn you as you brake. Take your top cone. It's just a standard threaded 1-inch headset. is a lock nut, which also threads on.
It's in pieces and going in a crate.
In a pinch, you can tighten this with channel locks and a big adjustable wrench. Just make sure your cone is tight enough. Hold your cone in place with channel locks and tighten your lock nut. It's not pretty, I'm not proud of it, but it works. Okay, next step, you want to install the wheel. Make sure that there's a washer between this chain guard and the cassette, so that washes keeps it from rubbing. This is the axle nut. And this whole situation gets installed in the hole in the front. That's installed in this one, with the chain on the right side. And all of these bits, all the washers and all of the metal bits go inside the drop heads. So the bottom bracket goes up top and is angled backwards from backwards from front. And the chain's got to be untangled. So it's just a puzzle game. I'm going to puzzle through it. There we go. So, to get this together, I'm just going to slide these tubes together and keep this chain not hooked over anything. This will sleeve down. I'm also going to slip it over this tube. And in here at the same time. And that is how it gets installed without breaking the chain. You can also, of course, break the chain. So this slides down. The chain goes on the second to top cog in the front. This gets installed this is incorrect. This chain ring has to be inside the slot in that tube. So I'm going to take this off. I'm going to let it slot down into that tube before installing it. And now that's installed correctly. Cool. That moves. Now this goes on the second largest cog, and then you can pull, look up here, you can slide this up. Until the chain gets tight. Now, you want to do two things at this point. You want to make sure that the chain is tight, and you want to make sure that the bottom bracket is aligned with the wheel. I'm going to rotate it back. It's going to both align it and tighten up the chain a bit. install the second crank arm in opposition to the first. Put on its nut. Tighten that down with a 15mm socket. Then comes the fun part of troubleshooting. So in this case right here, you can see that the chain is caught off to the side of the chainring. I'm going to spring this back so that I can release it. And now it's in place. This also just got a little bit looser, so I might retighten that by sliding this clamp up. The last thing to do is, again, using 13mm to tighten down this clamp.